Hey guys, welcome to season 4 of 15-ish minute coffee chat. We've got an amazing lineup of guests this year, and we'll be having weekly live stream conversations that every business owner needs to hear.
This week, we're joined by Sarah and Kevin Wardell of Bergamot Wine Company. As a team, Sarah and Kevin own a small, mighty company that thinks wine education should be fun. But before we introduce Sarah and Kevin, we want all of you to join us today. Tell us in the comments, would you want to work with your spouse?
I'm transparency here. No, yes, like 50-50. Depends on the day, right?
Right? Yeah. So we are currently in the process of retiring, right? Where my spouse is home a lot, all the time. So we are getting into this mode of trying to figure out how to be around each other a lot. So I'm excited to talk to a couple that seems to have it figured out. Like they spend their days doing things together, which is pretty awesome. And they have fun. Like if you took a time to go and check out their Instagram or their Facebook before this show, they have so much fun marketing their company and doing what they do. So I'm excited to have them on today. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I am too. They really are fun. And I love that. And I think, that's the whole part of that leads into the brand of like, yeah, you want to invest in them because they're so great. So I mean, their stories, but I'll leave that for when they come in. But all right, let's bring in their bio here. And Anna, why don't I'm gonna let you do their bio. You're speaking better today than I am.
So their bio made me laugh really hard. It went through all of this stuff that started with, first of all, we'll start with Kevin. So first, for one of the cool things I read about Kevin was that he spent 2 years as a music producer at MTV, which for my 90s loving heart, I thought was pretty dang awesome.
I have so many questions, especially from the 90s. I'm like,
right.
Right.
Like, I didn't even know that. I've known Kevin for quite some time now, but I did not know that about him. So I'm super excited to find out more about that. Second, in 2010, Sarah and Kevin founded the Bergamot Wine Company. Kevin spends his day as a wine anthropologist and sommelier. He loves drinking old world wines and pairing it with amazing food. And that's kind of what Bergamot Wine Company is. And then when it came to Sarah's section of the bio, it just says, Sarah does all the rest. So I loved that. So what is all the rest? Well, I'm imagining it's everything other than drinking wine and pairing it with amazing food. So maybe she's the force behind this duo. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out, right?
Yeah. The connection just works for them in their business, right?
Exactly.
Well, Anna, I'm going to let you bring them in.
All right. So here they come, Sarah and Kevin.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Welcome to our show.
Oh, it's so good to see you guys.
Thank you for having us.
I know. I feel like a little scared. Like when you mentioned, well, MTV has been on Anna's like lips every time we mention. Like, I cannot believe I didn't know that. I cannot believe I didn't know that. And then I was going back into my whole like, what shows like like the real world like 1, not like 45 or whatever it is now. Even I don't know.
When I worked there, just to date me, when I worked there, Real World 2 was we were releasing that. So yeah, that's how long ago it was. Which is cool because that's when MTV was still MTV, right? It still played music and it still had a very, very fascinating following. So it was a big deal. But yeah, that was a long time ago.
I did. Did you meet Max Headroom?
No.
In any way, shape, or form? Did you
brush shoulders?
I met all the rest of the stars on the show at the time for sure.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say I just had the biggest crush on Daily Carson. Like that's just all. I mean, that's what I watched it for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
silly.
I my claim to fame. What I was, in my young 20s, and I remember at a company function, I danced with Idalis one night. If you remember her, she was one of the people.
You just had a whole bunch of people,
right?
I love it.
Right.
So while he was at MTV, Sarah, where were you? Were these your Switzerland years?
These would have been mid-90s. Yeah, these would have been my Switzerland years. I lived there for 8 years. I'm starting at the age of 20. And yeah, It was a really good time.
Adventure. So as you can see, like just from the initial starting conversation, these two are not your typical like graduate college, buckle down, get to work, do this, you know, and off you go into your career of choice. They both are, I think, a little bit of the going off, following their dreams, following their passions, like really like testing the waters in places. So that's
we do
awesome.
a lot of listening to what feels good next.
So good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I will tell you, I am not a graduate of a college. I'm not I sort of in your field, guys, but I was in the restaurant industry for 20 years. And I remember saying, like, I can't say the word sommelier, but I love to just kind of like watch them one day and do what they do and learn their craft. And every time we had wine classes for our team, I was always just fascinated, you know, and we'll go into that. I know we talked about MTV and everybody's like, what word did Selena just say? And some people don't realize how big of a word that is and how much training goes into, you can't just be like, I'm going to be one and then you are one. Like, that's not how it works.
Nope.
You know?
No, there's a good Netflix special that we send people to. Just like, okay, just look at that, and that'll kind of throw your brain into a complete whirl and realize how nerdy the rabbit hole goes.
Oh my gosh!
I also saying the word sommelier, and I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but it is a mouthful because it's like a it's like a word. So tell us, say it right for us, Kevin.
Oh, we just say som. We don't try to pronounce it.
Oh, it's not.
Oh, that's the cool way to say it. Okay, som. Okay, great.
Just shorten it then. Now we're in the know, Selena. We're in the know now.
We are. I'm going to just share one restaurant wine horror story that Kevin and Sarah might be like, oh. So, like, you know, you bring on new staff, and when you do a hiring process, right? And when you hire a server, I worked for a Italian restaurant. You need to know how to open a bottle of wine, and that's always in the question in our interview. Oh, yeah. So this guy, great server, but he apparently never had opened a bottle of wine in his whole entire life. I walked past him, and he has one of our most expensive bottles of Malbec in between his legs with the wine cork. And the guest is like just staring down at him because his legs are down below. So everybody's just like watching him. And I done this like smiling while you walk, and then I stopped and I walked back and I was like, let me get that for you.
Let me pull that out from between your legs.
I was just
so
you
wrong.
guys, only at home can you open a bottle of wine in between your legs, right?
And maybe not even then.
There's a few simple lessons that, you know, so we ran a wine bar together. That was our first venture together when, that was 8 years ago, 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Yeah, we ran it for 7-8 years. And that was, you know, some of our first tests weren't, you know, necessarily what you know about wine, but can you actually get through opening a wine properly? You know, do you know how to spit when you're tasting and not let it go all over the place? much more about, I could teach you everything else, but if you don't have the basic skills down.
Oh my gosh. Wait, before we get into the meat of talking with you folks, why don't we do our coffee cup selfie real quick?
We love to do our coffee cup selfie.
Or whatever you're holding. Yes.
We got our cups.
I love it. Okay. I'm going to Disneyland this week, so no, I'm not, just in my head. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now we can do all the talking. We can.
Now we can do all the talking.
Yeah.
All right. So we love to start our show off with a mental health question of the day, mostly because we feel like people gloss over the whole mental health aspects of working a full-time job and all of that, what it entails, especially working as a duo all the time. So our question for you today is, how has your work shifted the ways in which you are connected to your community?
Let you take that one.
That's an interesting one. It's interesting because our timing was our shift kind of happened the year before this. We moved everything onto an online business anyway. So as far as being involved in the wine community in the way that we are, we used to be very, you know, we had bricks and mortar. So we were very face forward. We were involved with people on a very, very daily basis. And then, a year prior to COVID, we had already kind of completely made that switch. So we were very fortunate in the fact that we were almost set up for success with our business, with the Bergamot business being all virtual already. Now, not to say that things haven't changed, like, for both of us as far as meeting with people and as far as getting things done, but we were already, just learning how to truly work from home on a regular basis already. So we were ahead of the curve somehow.
So the shift in the pandemic didn't knock your business flat on its butt necessarily. You were able to kind of move forward because you're already progressing in that direction, is what you're saying.
We were ready for it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And people like wine when they're stressed out. So it kind of helped.
So in that way, then when you were, because I know you guys, right? So I know how connected to your community you are, in the sense that you really have built your business, that your brick and mortar business was in the downtown of your little town. And it was a place where people went and enjoyed and had fun, and you're constantly talking. So now that you're shifted to almost all virtual, how has that changed your interaction?
That's definitely been a funny one, because we do live in the heart of wine country. We're right in the middle of a lot of vineyards and a place where it's kind of, there's some funny challenges with selling wine to the local folks, is that everybody around here is pretty spoiled with wine. They all have wine. They all have neighbors who make wine. They all have people who give wine for, give them wine for free. And what we specialized was very different wine, because it was old world. But the minute we closed our brick and mortar, there's a lot of people who don't recognize that we've closed our brick and mortar still. They still text me and ask me to bring wines. Like, we do like home deliveries now, which we try and encourage people to just go to the website. It's really easy. They're like, well, I just want you to. So there's still this sort of very large local community that considers me their private som, and we still do it for them. But it's funny, they still want to come visit us. They still want to come pick things up. They still want to actually. They're not okay with just all of a sudden Bergamot being virtual. Like, they're ready to come to our back porch and pick up wines at the most inconvenient times. But it's what they're used to, and they won't let go of that. So that's been a funny shift.
So your community's not letting go of your change. They're like, no, not going to happen.
No, they're not accepting that at all, for sure.
I mean, we have creative workarounds, which is fine, but it's definitely like, it's less of like, the crowd of people in the bar, and it's more like, all right, let's do a time slot on Thursday and you can come pick it up on the back porch. That's great.
You can come pick it up on the back porch. I love it.
Well, and creative workarounds, that's the best way to say that is last year we had a sale out of the back of the VW bus in the middle of like a torrential rainstorm. We set up a couple of speakers, but it was like a holiday sale and everybody needed their wines. We're like, okay, well, we're just going to do it this way. So it may not be the most legal way to have done it, but
yes, it was. It was
somewhat...
so legal.
It was Sarah back there. It was legal.
It was pre-bought. We were just there to deliver it.
That's a testament, though, to the community that you've been able to create, is that you could actually take your van in the middle of a thunderstorm or torrential rainpour, and people are like, I need to get my stuff. My wine peeps are out there.
They were there.
Doing it,
That felt good. That was a nice. It's nice to know that these guys are just like still ravenous about it, but they will not use the internet to get our wine. So.
They're learning slowly.
Yeah.
That's
hysterical. There is another client of mine that I have, and they were like, I don't know. They just call. Like they call to place their order. It's a restaurant client in Hauoli. They can easily go online and they don't have to wait. They don't have to call me back 5 times. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, they could just go boop, 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 boop. And, so it's a process. You
can't teach some dogs new tricks.
No, you can't.
It sounds like you guys spoiled them from the start. So kind of your fault. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Right.
Guilty as well.
This kind of leads us very nicely into the toolkit that the new way that we've done it this season is we ask our guests, like, hey, what's something you just can't live without? And Sarah, Kevin, I'm gonna assume Sarah filled out the form and sent it in, so you can do yours. Yeah.
Coming.
So
she was busy with the wine and the fine food.
Yeah.
All the rest, right?
I've got the hard part of the job. Yeah, exactly.
But we asked her toolkit, and Sarah gave us a great tool, and I think everybody needs it. It's your WordPress. Everybody doesn't know what that is. It's 39% of the web is built on WordPress. But maybe you use Wix, maybe you use Squarespace. Whatever it is, basically, it's the internet where you would go to place an order. More bloggers, small businesses, and Fortune 500 companies use WordPress, and all others combined join millions of people that call WordPress.com home. Sarah, tell us a little bit why WordPress is something that is important to you and Kevin.
Yeah, that's an easy one. To follow up on what we were just talking about, when someone goes online to place your order, if your system isn't set up to make that navigation easy, it's really hard to place an order. So part of our learning curve too was setting up our platform so that it was super user friendly and that we could have all the bells and whistles. And that took us a while. It took us a good 2 years. We just launched our brand new website and brand new backend, still using WordPress, in October, and it's been a total game changer. The reason I love WordPress is because it's open source, and I might get a little nerdy here, but when you choose Wix versus Squarespace, there's different ways that it connects to other programs, and WordPress is open, meaning that anybody can code anything for it. So you have kind of unlimited things to add on to it, which is really groovy. Yes. So, if I want a new kind of calendar, I'm sure someone's built it, or I can pay someone to build it myself and plug it in. So I find WordPress to be super valuable because it is all the bells and whistles besides our selling platform. Yeah. The selling platform actually is very different. In the wine industry, there's a lot of regulations that we have to go through when we sell wine. So we actually use a very wine-specific e-commerce platform that's plugged into WordPress. And so the combination of those two things is now, I feel like we're set up for success, long-term success. So it's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know, WordPress is the platform Selena and I use when we build our website. So we're big fans of this toolkit, clearly. It is so user-friendly also. Just in terms of being able to learn how to build a website, WordPress is really easy to use, and so many tutorials out there on the web that can help you navigate through things. But Sarah and Kevin have some. So one of the things we saw when we went on your website is you guys are now doing virtual tastings, and that's something that people can sign up for on your website. So tell us a little bit about your virtual tastings and what you're doing right now with this.
Obviously that's one of the things that when we had bricks and mortar, that was one of the biggest things is we used to teach these classes at our bar in wine country, kind of educating people about wines from, different areas like Italy and France, which is more of our forte. But with everybody on Zoom, it actually has opened up that avenue again for us, which has been really fantastic. And a lot of the times what we do are more, private and corporate events. We did a lot of things through the holidays. There's been a lot of Zoom tasting, a lot of Kevin going back to the studio and oh, there goes Dad again, drinking wine and hiding in the studio. But it's been really, really fun. I mean, I think a lot of people have tried to do it. I know I've had talked to a lot of winemakers that are doing it for their winery, and they just can't stand it. Winemakers in general are pretty, they're not the most social of beasts. They're pretty quirky people in general, and it's driving them crazy. So someone like me who likes to talk, a million miles an hour and over and over and nonstop, it's kind of a perfect platform for us. So when we launched the new website, we had that actual ability to for people to sign up, as opposed to what we were doing before was just through email, which again it seemed very, very we were well behind the times. But with our new website, we have that ability for people to sign up, and now we can run tastings that are just run by us, so not private, not for anybody, that anybody can join. You buy the wines ahead of time, and they show up, and then you tune into the tasting when you're ready.
And it's not just local specific. Now your reach can be
anywhere.
Anywhere. That is allowed the laws, right? or is that anywhere? I mean, with the wine shipping, I mean, I know that our state can get shipments, so I'm excited about that. But my sister in Hawaii gets upset because there's certain laws you can't ship something to Hawaii. So
you can ship to Hawaii. It's really expensive to ship to Hawaii. I mean, that shipping, I joke that we're like a shipping company, not a wine company, because shipping is so much of what we do, and wine is so heavily regulated.
yeah.
So, and the timing of it is also important. So when Kevin sets a tasting date, we
Yeah.
have a cutoff date for sales. Otherwise, you're doing expedited shipping to get it there on time because you have the wine. So the timing of everything on a tasting is very different. And the other thing too is that when you do a tasting now, you're opening up at three bottles maybe in one night, and that's not for everybody. Although we say you can save it and drink it for multiple nights, or get your pod together and do it all out in your driveway.
Yeah.
But normally you're just sharing little sips of wine, and it's very cost effective. And now I feel like it's a very different platform to try to entice people to open up multiple bottles at once.
Yeah,
for the education.
Yeah. I just want to say this too, and I'm just a big advocate for it. Is I always feel like everybody should have a website if they possibly can, if they're going to grow their business, because then you give a central location from all the different platforms. I heard somebody like, I'm fine, I have Facebook. But I'm like, but people have to have Facebook to know you. They can't just go into Facebook to find you unless they have an account. And there's some people like, I'm not Facebook. I'm like, but a website, anybody. Yes. Somebody can come from LinkedIn. Somebody can come from TikTok. Oh my gosh, you guys should do TikTok. That's another story because you guys are so fun. But, and I know in a wine world, they're like, oh, snooze, like websites, but like literally like as business people, this is kind of important to, the Wardells is making sure that there's a way that they can stay connected to people that are looking for a fun experience. And I don't know, Anna, why have we not done a virtual wine tasting yet with them? Like we should have been friends and do it.
I know, we totally should.
I know.
We've got one launching this week for Marque Madness. It's our annual tasting in March. So going back to Marque, I know you love it there, Anna.
So you heard it here first, everyone. Order your bottles on the Bergamot Wine Company. And how fun, right? The unboxing process, and then having Kevin come on and swishing and spitting and swishing and spitting. I can't wait, right?
Yeah.
That makes it sound really appealing. Come on. Get on camera.
This is the extent of my knowledge of wine. I'm sorry to say that, but swishing and spitting is what I think you do all day long. That and eating fine food now.
It's absolutely a part of it, and again, you have to practice to be a really good spitter. It's kind of like the Wild West. It's tuned from across the room. But yeah, this is going to be a fun one. We're excited about this next tasting. One, because it's a unique one, because as we kind of breezed over what the subject is, the Marche is a region in central Italy and the east coast of Italy. So it's the opposite side of Tuscany. It's an area that I'm absolutely in love with and have been to a number of times. And it has a lot of really unique wine. And what we get to do is we do a play on words. Instead of March Madness, we do Marque Madness, and it's something that we've been doing for years. That you get to fill out brackets and vote for just like the basketball brackets, and you get to vote for which wines you like the best, and then the winner, whoever gets to the winner is basically the composite of the entries, and whoever is the winner gets some wine as a prize. So it is a really fun one. You get to learn about a very unique area of Italy, and it'll be several sessions long. It's not just one tasting, because we're going to cover a bunch of different wines. So it'll be 3 or 4 tastings in a row.
That's awesome.
So
we'll launch that on our site this week, which we're excited about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to say this real fast. I've been in a lot of wine tastings because of the industry, man. And I would have been so excited if we had like a Kevin come in to like actually, you know what I mean? Like, because there's sometimes where you're just like, what? You know what I mean? Like, and I've seen your content that you guys put out. I'm like, man, I keep telling you, I'm like, I would have loved, you know what I mean? They would have been like a favorite, like, hey, can you have them come back? Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's see how a stash is going to look like this month, maybe, like.
So if you haven't seen Kevin in action, which again, you'll get tastes of it if you go check out like their Instagram site and that kind of thing. But he dumbs it down for us normal folk, that don't understand the ins and outs of the wine world necessarily, but helps us get to that place where we feel like now we can pop our noses a little higher in the air and hold our glasses correctly and whatnot. Anyway, it's a really fun way to, what a great opportunity for the virtual friendship, like grouping kind of thing. So highly recommend people take advantage of it. I have to pop in just a couple of comments because they're cracking me up. So Kevin, you have some fans with the mustaching that's happening on. So it's just nonstop right now in the comment section. We've got and then Sarah, Ray's just on a roll right now because then he popped it in with the gray hair coming in as well. So
Ray is just jealous. That we know.
Absolutely.
That is sheer envy.
Clearly, he is clearly wishing he could sport this mustache beard combo that you've got going on. So
you know what? I'm going to put a challenge out to Ray because we're excited to have him on our show in March. Ray, you have a month to compete against the stash.
Yeah. Kevin said he's been growing that for only since December. That's about a month. So let's see if he can top that. That's perfect.
Okay. And anyway, I think it's fantastic, and I think that it's so great that you guys have created, like, with how this world has been, that you've created an experience that can be virtual but still like be enjoyable and not just a typical like Zoom call, but I mean, how fun! Like you're giving an item. Go people, go!
Yes.
Happy hours. That's our
I'd be there all the time.
As Sarah said, it's like we've created this, but it is really it's the amount of work on the back end that we've had to kind of prepare to have ready. We are a shipping company. Like the wine part is the most fun part, and that's the face forward part. And that's what we both have fun being involved in that for sure. But all of the wheels and cogs moving in the background in order to make that work, in order to get the wine there on time, in order to ship to the warehouse, and then all of that stuff. If we hadn't upgraded our website in this past couple of months, we would still be struggling. We would still be doing all these things manual. So the amount of work that Sarah put into building this new website and all the muscle on the back end of the website that actually makes it work is it's awesome. It has been a game changer, as Sarah said. And it's amazing when you look at a business like this. It's like, it looks like you're having fun, but boy, on all the stuff that you have to do, just like anybody's business. But it's funny when there's something so forward and everybody loves the wine part of it, and you have to look and see behind the curtain a little bit.
Don't tell them. Don't show me.
Yes.
No, we actually
we're in a dark room. You want to see what's going on around us. It's terrifying.
We're actually right at that point where we're going to rip those curtains open, because you're talking about, the wine is the fun part of it, but there's all this behind the scenes happening that you and Kevin are having to juggle. That's all part of that running the business, the bookkeeping, the promotion, marketing stuff, all of it, everything that goes into the ordering and the product and the, quality control type thing and planning out your schedule. So really, this is like the meat of where we're at, the working with the spouse conversation. So let's peel the curtain open.
Yes. That's the best way to describe it too.
Right? So we've got one big question for you guys, really. Hold on just a second. I had it as a scrolling ticker, but I don't want to do that. I want to show it like this. So Sarah and Kevin, what would you say is the number one positive and the number one negative of working as a spouse team?
You start.
I'll start.
There you go. You just saw it.
I like how that works.
Right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Sarah.
To me, it's actually the answer is the same for both questions. So the most positive thing is also kind of the most negative thing, in that we perpetually and constantly share creative mental space. And sometimes that is like magic. And when we set time aside and we're really digging into it and we've got some ideas and we can sit and brainstorm, and usually that's not hours, that's days that turn into weeks, that, and there's different phases of stuff. And so we're constantly kind of back and forth and feeding off, and, you're cooking dinner and he shouts out something like, yeah, that was a good one. And, just kind of meld it in as you're doing all of your everyday today. And then if you flip that a little bit, it just never stops. And so you're cooking dinner, you're like, I don't want to talk about work right now, because it's constantly part of what we do and how we think. And so we've spent a lot of time just being able to very successfully bounce ideas off of each other, to just create things without having a platform or like solidity to them. So a lot of things just kind of hang around in the air and get kind of developed over time. And a lot of just mental work goes into that. Dogs. But yeah, that would be my answer. It's like, we're always doing that. And so sometimes we have to have some boundaries on when we turn that off. So like one of our rules is there is absolutely no work in the bedroom, period. Just, bring it in the bedroom. It doesn't matter if you're folding laundry or whatever, take it out to the living room. So there's some physical boundaries in our physical space. And then there's also some mental boundaries that we have to create for ourselves and to respect that time when we need just time to think on our own and process on our own.
So that's interesting. That is not what I expected you to say, but it makes a lot of sense in terms of, I loved how you put it though, that you're constantly sharing creative space, and that conversation is always there because you guys are always together. I mean, you have separate things that you do, but you live in the same. No, you don't.
Never.
All right, never mind. Scratch that. There's nothing separate well, right now, especially because there's a pandemic, right? So you're at home anyway. You live in California, so there's even higher restrictions than most states have.
Yeah.
But that space, it is hard. I mean, working from home. So I telecommuted for 16 years, so I understand this. When you work from home, it's hard to shut it off anyway. Your computer's right there at 2 a.m. You're thinking about something, you hop up and you go and work for a minute. Yeah. It's hard to set those boundaries. So how have you guys been able to establish those boundaries other than just saying, we're not talking about this in the bedroom
I'll definitely admit it. It took me a lot longer. Sarah has been doing, project work and has been able to, manage working from home and balancing, taking care of the kids and everything like that for much longer and far more effective. She's far more organized than I am. Where I've been working, in restaurant industry and everything like that, where it's like you go to a place and then you're running 100 miles an hour until you leave that place. And thankfully, it was a business that I could leave out of my brain, and once I walk away from it, great, nothing starts again until I walk back in that door. So when we changed over to being at home, we had an office at first, and I would have to go to the office to actually be effective. I'm like, I can't do anything here because distractions and all of the things, and it took me a long time to get to that. So I had a big learning curve learning from Sarah with that. So I think it probably was a good thing because we both kind of learned it together. Like, okay, well, we know now that there's certain times and ways in which we can be most effective. And it's just about, communication. And Selena, as you said in the beginning, it's, I'm glad that you see us as having so much fun doing this. And, but if you're not having fun doing it, then you're not going to be very effective at it. We have to be able to have a creative outlet and to be able to have fun with it. As long as you can figure out how to balance that with, okay, who's got the kids this afternoon, and it's the juggle, but it's great because it's a two-way juggle. It's once we're as long as we're communicating about that, then everything's moving the right direction, and and we also have very different responsibilities in this business, which is good. It's I can be like, okay, Sarah gives me a deadline, I need this from you so I can get this done. Great. So then it's we call it tag team basically, because like we could sit there and work on the same thing for a couple of hours, and then one of us is gonna have to split off. So it's like, okay, I'll finish this, bam, your turn, we switch. I'll go in the kitchen, you do that. So there's a lot of that for sure.
It makes it so no schedule is reliable. So you have to be able to do everything on the fly, because at any one moment it's your turn to work, and then the other one has to do all the house, kid duties, all that kind of stuff. So we're very much on the fly, but we do have some structure when it comes to like, okay, it's your turn for bedtime or whatever. And, so we do have some of that, but for the most part, it's like we cannot plan ahead. If it's on the calendar as our rule, then it's true. If there's a question mark behind it on the calendar, it's not true yet, but it will be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So we have a question from our viewing audience. You're both creatives. How hard is it to embrace the business side of things?
Oh, I love the business. I love it.
Okay, so Sarah, you have a penchant for the business side then.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, because that's what we do, right? I mean, I would say it's easy for me to be into business because, quite honestly, I've kept myself at this. This actually kind of sounds ironic because we have owned a wine-based business for 10 years, but I don't know that much about wine, and I keep it that way. I don't go into the nerdy. I am not a somm. I don't retain information like Kevin does. I don't want to try any longer, so I just don't. So I constantly ask some very interesting, what I would call dumb questions, because I know the answer. I've heard it somewhere, but that's just not how I think about wine. I enjoy drinking it. I enjoy doing all these things, but really my expertise is like creating the structure around how to get it to people, how to talk about it, refining the copy that he writes around it. So I'm the organizer of all the back end things that kind of present it to people. And I find that kind of curation really exciting. So.
Which really works, because like I said, I mean, when I visit your website, I don't feel like the wine dummy that doesn't understand what I'm looking for, what I'm doing. Like, you've really been able to make it, I don't even know, mainstream, I guess. Maybe that's not the right word for it, but where I can come in and feel like I can make a good choice with zero knowledge, right?
I want to just kind of like talk about this. My husband and I have this like secret obsession. We binge on like Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares and show, right? And I'm always intrigued by the aspect of when it's a husband and wife that like, I'm gonna do the restaurant because my husband is an amazing like chef, right? And then but they don't realize the business aspect of it. So you need both parts. And so I think it's like like you just kind of like, how to be successful is not that you both are wine experts, but that you both bring in like an aspect of the whole package to make it successful, right? Which is it's balanced. So Kevin's like, I don't know, maybe I don't want to build a website. All you, Sarah, I don't know,
I have no idea how to do any of that stuff. No, it's great. Back to the question. I mean, we are both creatives, but in such opposite sides, which is great. Again, there's a complementary thing there where, on the business end of things, I'm just constantly looking at the ordering, the wine that's going out, and the cost of our goods in general, right? And then all other costs and all those things, the things that Sarah is worrying about is how is our shipping functioning, how is our the rest of our business coming together, so that at the end of the day, when we look at our month numbers and what we need to do and how we need to tweak things, we both have answers that we're bringing to the table that say, okay, we've got this, and so finding that natural balance is it's I guess it's come somewhat easy to us compared to others, but we get the same reaction that you guys are saying is, we get people all the time like, so how are you guys doing? How do you actually work together? How do you even get away with any of this? So we do feel fortunate that it's partly our disposition and our relationship, and then partly it is like it does help that we have different skills that make this business a whole, which is great.
We also we outsource some of the main things. Like, I do not do accounting, so that's all outsourced. Somebody else does all of our numbers, so I don't have to worry about that. That is the best money ever spent in the world.
Yeah.
I like to read the numbers once they're presented, but that's pretty much it. And then, the shipping is all outsourced as well. So really all we have to make sure is that Kevin curates whatever wine is in the shop or in the tasting. So he is the curator of that. And then the rest of it is just curating it on the website in a way that functions and, finally ends up at your doorstep. So
I love that combination of things. So you both recognize your strengths and your weaknesses in the different areas. You've been able to divide the business processes up into equitable parts. So one of you doesn't feel like they're having to do the majority of it, while the other only gets to do the fun stuff. You still get to have that creative, fun portion. And then the last piece of that is recognizing what neither of you are maybe good at or want to do or excel at, and outsourcing that and finding somebody else to come in. Because I can imagine if accounting was on your plate and you did have to do it between the two of you, that could be the cause of many a conversation, unhappy conversation.
We wouldn't be doing what we're doing. There's just not enough hours in the day. We wear all the hats, and some of the hats you just have to give away. To people who look better in them.
That's my quote for the week right there.
Okay, this is
better in those hats.
This is a question I have for you two is, I mean, one, it's hard even when you're parents, but when you're also business owners together, like how do you guys like allocate some time that's just for you guys? Like not about the business, not about being parents, but something that's just like for you guys to take that moment to like, do you self-care yourselves as a, you know what I mean? Or I'm just curious.
Set off work.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say it's actually kind of interesting in the world of COVID. Since last year, for the first time in our working relationship, so 10 years, we made the hard rule, no work on weekends. And it has been amazing.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. I've never not worked on weekends because it's always constant.
Right.
So in the last year, having weekends has been really lovely because we spend time with our kids. We go on trips to the beach. We go wherever, it's you have time and space to kind of get out of the house together and do something.
Yeah, and my background of working in in the restaurant industry, weekends were that was the hardest. That was when you worked the hardest. So it definitely took a shift. But boy, you open that up, you open those 2 days and pretend like we have 9 to 5 jobs. If in that little bit, it makes a huge difference for sure. And that definitely was a big thing. So, but it's tough. It's a challenge. Obviously, everybody's dealing with, and then working from home, especially working together from home, that is a tough one, and it's very important. And sometimes we forget it, and you have to just reel it back in and say, okay, we need to create this space.
Yeah,
it's not healthy for anybody.
Yeah. Weekends is a big one because I know every entrepreneur when they start out, it is like round the clock, 24 hours, busting their tails to get it all done. Like you were saying, get it all done. There's so many things. You're everything in your business. So I love that you've reached a point where you can just say, hey, Friday at 11 p.m., we're cutting it off. There is no more working. We're going to take Saturday.
It's up to 11 p.m. Wait a minute.
I'm just making that like in mark. I don't know. Maybe it's like 6 p.m., but I'm guessing.
Yeah, remember, we made this clear. We start drinking by noon. Yeah. And we have for our job, of course. Professionally, we start drinking by noon. So making it to 11.
Market research is very important. You know what I mean?
Got it. So Friday evenings are market research nights. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, we do, we pre-order all of our club wines ahead of time to write all the notes. And so every single month, at least once a month, there is a dozen wines that get opened all at once. And over the year, it's gotten a little kind of refined, but there's a little flock of winemakers that come to our house on the back porch, socially distant, and we all taste together.
It's like leaving out birdseed. Seriously, it's like you look out the window and say, "Oh, who's that? Oh, there, yeah, he brought some back. Okay, good, yeah."
You leave them a dry erase board in case they forgot their phone while they're bringing in seed. Just tell me.
Jot down your notes.
Text us your notes, yeah.
That's how awesome to be like, oh, we have a bunch of winemakers that come into our backyard. Like, how cool is that?
No, I know. That's so fun. So on that kind of similar note, Kevin, this is specifically for you, but how do you know what aged saddle leather tastes like? When describing a wine.
That is a
always my question when a wine guy would come in to teach our class.
When you first start out actually, having to think through all of this stuff, your best sort of wine instructors tell you, go to a farmer's market and literally don't buy a thing. Just go and pick up everything and smell every single thing, right? And you start doing what they call a Rolodex of what these different things smell like and taste like. But, if you think of aged saddle leather. You know, I'll admit I've licked a lot of weird things, but I've not licked an aged saddle. I'll admit it. But I mean, you put that next to you know the difference of something like an old leather smell, like an old leather boot, you know, or an old leather jacket versus new leather, right? Like you get a new leather jacket, it has a very distinct smell for probably 20 years until it's well worn in, and then it takes on a different smell, right? So there's a lot of funny things that sommeliers will say, and that our wine tastes like. And if you do go to our site, we try and make it, and as you said, we try and make it very approachable. If you look at our wine descriptors, they tend to be a little bit different than your normal, like, pairs well with chicken and has a tannic back end, all these, we try and keep it very, very far away from the snooty and much more fun. Like, oh wait, I want to taste that. Like, because this tastes like, Carmen Miranda in a waterfall cleaning her sheets. Like that's a good bottle of wine. I want to go taste that. So it is a funny world to be able to describe these things. And old aged saddle leather is that's a good one, because when you taste it or smell it, specifically when you smell it, you know exactly what it is.
That's my favorite part about the tasting. Actually, you guys coming up with the descriptors. I love the moments where all the winemakers are around, and Kevin and, Caitlin will throw out like, oh, I'm totally getting, cotton candy, and you can't unsmell cotton candy now. Like,
no,
oh my God, it's cotton candy.
I'm going to tell you my new quote this week from Kevin is going to be, I've licked a lot of things. Like, I think that is going to be like my favorite quote of this show today. I'm just going to say,
I just want to know if he's licked Carmen Miranda while she's cleaning her sheets. That's my question here. Because you just say that was what your wine tasted like, right? Or that's what it smelled like.
That's, if you can picture yourself in a waterfall dancing with Carmen Miranda while cleaning sheets.
Tropical smells, it's fresh water smells.
Yeah, tropical, the smell of the waterfall minerality. Right, exactly.
I clearly need to work on my visuals.
You know what? Anna, you gave me a really creepy visual of Kevin, and then all of a sudden Kevin and Sarah turned it around, and now I envision me in Hawaii in a waterfall with her. You know what I mean?
Got it. I apologize.
Great wine, right?
That's okay. I was not going to fall into that sister trap of you licked Carmen Miranda in a waterfall. Sorry, this is not the right show for that.
No,
really not.
This is a Monday morning before noon kind of show. Oh, that's great. Okay, no, I could, I could ask you guys so many questions. But I think it's great. And like I said, I have a bunch of friends that are spouses and running businesses, and I hear some of their pains. And then, so I just think, it's so great to actually get to speak to a couple that run a business together, and they clearly still like each other at a reasonable amount. You know what I mean? That it's not always easy.
And being around each other, not at work. That's something, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, that's the key to success. You can tell if I definitely know some people who work with their spouse, and they go separate directions once their work day is done.
So we've reached kind of the end part of our show. We have one more, we have our tip jar that we want to throw up for all of our viewing audience. So our tip today from Caitlin Eldridge with Eldridge CPA is to make sure you have a business only bank account, PayPal account, Stripe account, all those things. So you do not want to be mixing your business and your personal financial information. And if you outsource accounting, like Selena and Sarah have been talking about, then you will know this for sure. They will insist on it because trying to combine those two and then separate them out at tax season is a disaster. Yeah. Sarah's like, yep. Yeah.
This is Caitlin. I like you had mentioned, Sarah, like that is definitely hiring Caitlin to be a part of my business and helping me manage my finances. This was the very first thing we did when she came on and said, okay, this is what you need to do, Selena. Let's separate. And I was like, okay.
We announced that we were like basically grown-ups when we hired our first CPA firm.
Yes.
Oh, we're grown-ups. We're so grown-ups.
Yes. I felt like I needed a sticker, you know what I mean, on a board somewhere that said, hey, good job.
Doing it right.
You got somebody that's in charge. You don't know how to be of your finances. Like I kept saying, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know why every email, so sorry. Here's this document. So sorry. Here's this other document.
That never ends.
Yeah.
If you know it's something that you want to deal with, so you feel bad that they're dealing with it. Even though they wear that hat better.
Totally. Okay, let me move on into like, we want to make sure and remind you guys where you can follow them. They're
not TikTok yet, but it's coming.
Yes. Oh gosh, I can only imagine. I am TikTok. Yeah, I'm so excited. I can't even say it right. I'm TikTok like obsessed. So, Sarah, tell everybody where they can find you and Kevin.
We are on Instagram and Facebook predominantly. We are venturing into the TikTok landia. We stay the heck away from Twitter. Not our thing.
There's too many people fighting about wine on Twitter. I don't know.
Yeah, they're serious on Twitter.
Yeah. And then, of course, on our website at bergamotwine.com.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Go
check it out.
And soon
on our
podcast.
Yay. They're going to be doing I'm so excited about that part. Yes. And go sign up for their virtual tasting. If you know, like go do it. Yeah, it's going to be such a fun experience. So yay. All right. Awesome.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Well, okay. So let me just round out really quick with just some last final things. Next week is Deanna Seymour, business mentor, podcaster, and all-around creative gal. She is a For the Ladies show. She is all about women and empowering and feeling good about yourself and body positivity and creating confidence and not being afraid to show who you are. So it's going to be a little bit different. Selena and I pre-recorded this with Deanna because she had a conflict. And so it'll be kind of fun to see how that goes for us.
I mean, we're still going to go live and premiere it because we just can't not stay away. But yeah.
I might even wear the same clothes just to kind of like fool your eyes a little bit, you know, in the same outfit.
There you go.
I'm going to wear a Kevin stash, actually, is what I'm going to do. And be like, did you watch last week's episode? If not, you need to.
Yeah.
You know? So Kevin's like, I can't, this stash is like not supposed to be the attention. I am the attention, right? You know, but awesome.
Anything to draw attention away. I love it.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Yes. What, Anna?
Find us at AnnaandSelena.com, on Facebook, on YouTube, on your favorite podcast platform. We'd love for you to subscribe. It always just helps us out with little things. You'd be surprised at what applications allow you to do once people actually subscribe to you. So go ahead and subscribe for us. Yes. And then send us a hashtag and tag us and take a photo of yourselves with us today on our show. And with Sarah and Kevin, we'd love to see it to add to our next 15-ish minute coffee chat series video.
Yes. All right. So thank you again to Kevin and Sarah. You guys have been wonderful.
So good.
Thank you for having us.
Amazing. Yes. So spouse is looking for business. Yeah. Kudos. Yep. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.